A conservative commentator, Gianno Caldwell, was just booted out of a restaurant. Now, Gianno happens to be black. Was he booted out because he's black? No. This isn't the Woolworth's lunch counter. This isn't the 1950s or 60s. No. Was he booted out because he's a man? I don't think so. Now, these days, men can go anywhere. They can go to the women's locker room. They can go into the girls' bathroom. No, you know why he was booted out. He was booted out because he's conservative.
Yesterday, as we were having breakfast at this particular location, which I had never been to, it was the suggestion to them to visit this particular place. One of the owners came over to the table and told us she had been listening to our conversation. We were not welcome there. And I said to her, I said, did I say something that was triggering to you? She said, no. She said, our politics aren't aligned. I'm one of the owners. I'm an owner here. I don't feel comfortable. You have to leave. So then I stood up, I walked out, and so did the rest of my group. She told me that I needed to get out of her establishment. If this was not the Jim Crow South, I couldn't tell much of a difference. Ron DeSantis said in Florida, discrimination is not allowed, and I hope that they're going to look closely to what happened here at this restaurant.
So he's booted out because he's conservative. A lot of people are asking, how is this legal? Well, the reason it's legal is there's no civil rights protection for political point of view. You can't go to a court and say, I was discriminated against on the basis of my political views. It's not protected. Race is protected, religion is protected, sex is protected, sexual orientation and gender identity in the wake of the Bostock decision. Thank you, Neil Gorsuch. That is protected. But political views are not. This is a reminder that one of the big stories about the civil rights revolution is not true. The big line about the civil rights revolution, and you might consider this a positive, you might consider this a negative. You might say, well, it had some good effects, but it actually had some bad effects too, is that it gets rid of freedom of association as an essential part of the American political order. Prior to the civil rights revolution, if you didn't want to let somebody into your store, if you didn't want to let somebody into your hotel, if you didn't want to let somebody to your lunch counter, you didn't have to do it. And in the 1960s, people looked at that and said, oh, that's kind of ugly because some people are keeping black people out of the lunch counters, and that doesn't seem right, so we're gonna get rid of that. And most people said, okay, that's a good thing. But there's a cost to everything in this world, and so when you get rid of freedom of association, maybe you're improving certain social situations, but you might be eroding some of the principles that all Americans hold very dear. And you might not even be totally getting rid of freedom of association. Right now, a black guy can't be kicked out of a lunch counter. That's a good thing. But a black guy who's a conservative can. A conservative of any stripe can be kicked out of a lunch counter. A white male could be kicked out of a public accommodation. It has been known to happen. You saw this especially during BLM and all the George Floyd riots. People saying this is a black space, white people not allowed here. You're seeing this crop up on universities. Black-only dorms, black-only spaces, white people not allowed. How's that legal? Well, it's not legal by the letter of the law, but nobody's going to enforce it. If any restaurant kicked out a lib, you know there would be a major lawsuit and the litigant would probably win. And the way that they would win is they would pretend that they were being booted out for some other reason. It'd be some lib, with purple hair and crazy piercings and an Antifa shirt screaming about burning down the establishment. You say, hey, lib, can you please get out of here? You're creating a nuisance. And you know what the lib would say. The lib would say, well, you're only doing this because I'm trans, or I'm a lesbian, or I'm this color, or I'm that race, or I'm whatever. And you know that they would win because the system is set up that way, where there are just two tracks here. If you attack anything that is conservative, traditional, pushing back against the Cultural Revolution, you can and usually will be punished. If you're the one pushing that revolution, you're good. You're safe. We talked about this yesterday when Stephen King was inveighing against banning books. And everyone seems to think that they're against banning books, but that's not true. We ban books in this culture. We ban the most important book. We ban the Bible in public schools. Well, that's different. We kick people out of our lunch counters if they're conservative. The Daily Wire, we were booted out of a restaurant. We had put a deposit down on this restaurant to have a dinner before our company Christmas party. And then they found out who we were and they said, you're not welcome here. You guys, because you're conservative, you're not allowed into the restaurant. And our protest, our big standing up against the man was Jeremy and Ben and Drew and I forget if Candace was there, Spencer, a number of us went in afterward and just had a drink. They were too cowardly to actually kick us out. But this happens, okay? This sort of thing happens. This reordering of the political order, it didn't create justice for all. It just created an opportunity to attack conservatives of any race, of any geography, of any kind of background. If they oppose the revolution, they're going down. Right now, head on over to expressvpn.com/Michael Knowles Show. It is extremely important to protect your online privacy with a VPN. Choosing a VPN that you trust is just as important. The only VPN that I trust is ExpressVPN. These guys have been with the show almost since the very beginning, I think. It's so easy. I'm basically a Luddite. It's super easy to you just download the apps right there on your computer, on your phone, on your tablet, whatever you want. Click one button, you are protected. ExpressVPN does not log your online activity. They've even developed a trusted server technology that makes it impossible for their servers to store any data at all. Number two, the speed. ExpressVPN does not slow down your user experience. You can even stream HD videos with zero buffering. Number three, ExpressVPN is super easy to use. You just click those buttons and you're good, you're protected. It's not just me saying this. Business Insider, The Verge, many other tech journals rate ExpressVPN the #1 VPN in the world. Protect yourself with a VPN I trust. Use my link, expressvpn.com/Michael Knowles Show. Today, get 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/Michael Knowles Show. expressvpn.com/Michael Knowles Show. I have been banned by another university. You know, every year I speak at a number of college campuses. I do this with Young America's Foundation. I've done this for years at this point. And if I got a little more time, sometimes I'll do, I could do up to 10 schools a semester. If I've got more work here at DW, they don't want to let me out, I'll at least do 4 or 5 schools a semester. Well, I guess I'm doing one fewer this year because Penn State says that I'm not coming. Even though the students invited me, they submitted their proposal to the school. I actually didn't know that I had been invited to Penn State until after they told me that I couldn't come. This is Penn State University, Harrisburg. They claim that they have the exclusive right to deny a campus lecture from me, yours truly. They say any event considered potentially harmful to the public image of Penn State Harrisburg will be rejected. Me! They want to ban me, whom everybody loves so. Can you imagine that? Shocking. Absolutely shocking. This is illegal. Penn State is a public university. They have no right to do this. The students do have a right at this public university to invite me to the school. And what they wanted me to speak on is my book, Speechless, Controlling Words, Controlling Minds, which is, there we go, thank you. #1 national bestseller, very mainstream book. It's a book on the history and meaning of language. Not exactly a bomb-throwing kind of topic, is it? If anything, it's a little bit dry. They said, no, it's too much. This could harm the image of the university. Okay. So does Penn State have any speakers come? They do. Who are some of the other speakers that have come on campus recently that have not harmed the public image of the university? Well, let's see. We've got Drag Bingo. The Student Engagement Office and Student Government hosted Drag Bingo. They hosted an LGBTQ panel hosted by Mix, not Mr. or Mrs. or Miss, Mix Jacob Kelly, who is a queer inclusive sex educator. That didn't harm the public image of the university. It's not even that they won't have explicitly political events. There was a lecture by Amy Goodman of Democracy Now!, which is a far-left TV and radio program. That was totally fine. So I think I figured out what we're going to do. We're going to have to reapply. I mean, I didn't apply at all. It was the students who applied on my behalf. So if they're listening right now, what I want you to do, you change my pronouns in the application. Instead of Mr. Michael Knowles, you say Mix, Michaela, Michelle Knowles, and then I'll just show up there and I'll wear some stilettos and I'll say this is an inclusive event, and then I can give my lecture on the history of language. And I think then it'll totally work out, right? Sounds great to me. They're still keeping this up. That's a public university. It's a public university. Last year, a Catholic university banned me. I had been invited to St. Thomas University in Minnesota. They banned me because I espouse Catholic dogma. I'm not joking. Because I don't think that boys can become girls, because I hold to unchangeable Catholic beliefs on a basic question of human nature, they said I'm not welcome at the Catholic university. Not only are we booted out of the weird liberal private schools, we're booted out of the nominally Catholic and conservative schools, and we're booted out of public accommodations. Expect more of that. If you haven't already, expect to be in Gianno Caldwell's position or the Daily Wire's position soon enough. Freedom of association for them, but not for us. That's how it's going to go. And they are going to ostracize us as much as they can. And until conservatives recognize that it's probably a little pastime for us to wield political power through the same sort of processes that the left wield political power, albeit we should do so in a just and moral way. Until we recognize that, as long as we just keep saying, well, come on, this isn't fair. Look at this double standard. This is hypocrisy. Imagine if the shoe were on the other foot. As long as we keep doing that, we're going to lose. And we're not going to get to go to universities, which might be a blessing in disguise. And we're not going to get to go to restaurants. And we're going to be forced to eat the bugs. And things are not going to turn out very well at all. You know what today is? Today is Woke Wednesday. The rest of the show continues now. There is a very thought-provoking woke reaction that Mr. Davies and the other producers want me to process and give my expert analysis on. You only get that on the member segment. So to become a member today, use code Knowles at checkout, Knowles. That's dailywire.com/Knowles. Use code Knowles. You will get 2 months free on all annual plans.